humiliated, they're being disrespected when they're trying to get their money in. And it was challenging to see.
Hello, Yemisi.
Hello, sorry. Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Yes.
Please go on.
Yes, I mean, I think it wasn't just the withholding of the pensions was one thing, but there was also the aspect of when people were actually trying to get their pensions, the treatment that they were subjected to. You know, we spoke to people who had to wait, for days trying to prove and verify that they were alive, having to take multiple visits to Calabar, being disrespected, being intimidated, being spoken to in really sort of harsh tones. And I think what was really striking for me is that, you know, as Nigerians, we pride ourselves on the way we treat elderly people. Within our culture, uplifting elderly people is extremely important and treating them with respect and dignity. But what we were seeing on ground is that is absolutely not the case. That is not the case. You know, people are being... It was just heartbreaking to see. You're seeing people in wheelchairs, people that are blind, people that are struggling with mobility, health issues, and they're being treated this way. It was extremely unfortunate.
Very, very unfortunate, as a matter of fact. I'm going to ask Eve Obaji, can you hear me? Are you in on this conversation?
Yes, I just got in. I initially had technical issues, but I'm in.
Okay. All right.
To have me on the show.
Thank you for joining us and for, being a part of this. So Yemisi earlier stated that it was you who brought the attention of the BBC Africa Eye on this story. What motivated you to approach the BBC African Eye with your mother's story? Was it just your mother, or you had seen her and her peers suffer and you wanted some type of help for them, someone to tell their story? What was it?
Okay, first, I usually like to start by telling people I've always been a journalist and a documentary filmmaker, passionate about telling, exposing or pushing the limit and exposing, the things that are happening in our system and hoping for a change. So at the time, before now, I've always pitched to BBC Africa Eye, and other media houses like Jazeera and all of that. So at this time, I was always looking at, the narrative of politicians is over talked about, how the civil service is rotten. How do we change the narrative,
Yes.
The issue about change in Nigeria, has to affect every asset. Otherwise, there won't be real change. So one morning while I was at home, Mom called me. I was like, oh, she's retiring, and it's her birthday, and she's having a challenge in processing her papers. And I asked her what's the challenge. She told me money was being expected. If I was every other person, who feels this, that's how the system is, so let's play along with it. Maybe I could have just gone, let me pay the bribe, and all of that. I could have done it. I had bulk, and all of that. But I asked myself, if I help Mom do this thing, what about others who do not have children like me? Who do not have children like DMC, Babatunde, and all of that. So that was when I felt I needed to do something to affect the change. So we had to push all odds. I told Mom, I don't know if your retirement is going to bring change about the system. Whatever fears that you might eventually lose your pension or wherever, if the system is exposed. I don't give a heck. If that's the sacrifice we're going to make for a sweeping change,
yes,
let's get down with it. So that was partly the motivation. But I discovered while being part of the film, part of the making of the film,
yes,
like every story goes, you get deeper and deeper motivation. As I speak with you, the motivation is even wider than I initially think. Mom's issue is just a tip of the iceberg.
Absolutely. I mean, I watched the short version of that documentary, and I was was struck. When you went to give the money to the official who demanded the bribe, it didn't seem as if she was asking for a bribe. And as you said in the report, as Yemisi quoted, they never said the word bribe, but from their body language and what they were demanding, it was clear what they wanted. So can you tell us how much was the money that was asked? And was it categorical that if your mom hadn't paid that money, then her processing would not have been followed through with?
I mean, Babatunde, if you've seen the full film, if you haven't seen the full film, I'll encourage you to see the full film. And the film, you will realize that we had certain voice conversations with, the lady in question, or she made it clear, that's a system, when you pay money, things get faster, and all of that, and all of that. So, and, with the social comments that we've had so far and all of that, you could tell that, everyone seems to be in that narrative, you have to, just like she didn't outrightly call it a bribe, right? You visit a shrine.
Yes, I mean, those were her exact words. By the way, for our listeners who are listening right now, if you're on Facebook, then you can see the visuals live of the documentary we're talking about. It's playing right now on our Facebook feed. You can go check it out. It's facebook.com/SplashFM1055. The video is playing right now, so you can actually follow the story as we're talking about, especially for those who have not had the chance to view the documentary. Obaji, I'd like to bring Yemisi back into the conversation at this moment and then ask her, some of the real issues concerning pensions. I mean, corruption, it's not just within the pension scheme only. It's one issue that as Nigerians, we continue to battle. And I just want to get your thought on how widespread you think this is in the pension scheme, especially given your experience putting together this documentary.
I think, we heard a lot of stories, and since the documentary has actually been released, we've heard even more. And again, not just in Cross River. We looked into this because Obaji brought it to us from Cross River, but this is a national problem, and some may even say a continental issue, because we've heard comments from other people across the continent saying that, this is also happening in their countries, that elderly people are struggling to access their money. So it does seem to be quite widespread. It does seem to be quite difficult. Again, this is where it would help to have some insight from government officials to hear more about what they're trying to do to clean up the system and what they're trying to do to help facilitate these payments to these people who desperately need it. But yes, it does seem to be quite a widespread problem.
Indeed. I mean, any person who's had any dealings with the government, parastatal or ministry would certainly agree with you that getting information seems to be hard. We seem to be, even though we have the Freedom of Information Act, there seems to be this secrecy around the kind of information that people need when they are looking in certain kind of directions, which is why, it'd be easy to commend people like Serap, who have made it their, life's work to continue to pressure government into making sure that ministries, departments and agencies do what is needful. But at this point, we're going to pause so that we can give our listeners a feel of this documentary that you so beautifully put together. As you say, it took you about 5 months to work on this. And we're going to allow them, get a feel of the story that you told in this documentary. Just hold on while we get that played.
My uncle, my aged mother is there. I cannot take care of her. Cannot take her to the hospital. So I am just like that, stranded.
Her son, Obaji Akpet, a local journalist who is helping her follow it up, told us they were both asked for money if they wanted her pension to be paid out.
Safe journey.
Stay well. Amen.
Stay well.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Mommy.
Africa Eye asked him to wear a hidden camera for his next meeting with Angela Etta, the official at the Calabar Pension Office. During the meeting, Angela Etta implied he should make an extra payment on top of the 21,000 naira, about $55, Obaji claims to have already paid her.
Then they got this place shrine. You know, say when you go shrine, you must drop something.
Obaji does what he's expected to do and hands over some money.
Okay, let me see what I have here. 4, 5. Okay. For the shrine.
All right. Thank you very much. You've done well.
But even then, the pension payments don't begin. And having to pay someone to get the pension you're legally entitled to isn't the only problem facing retired people in Nigeria. I'm in Okele, which is a community in Yala, where last October, this list was published with over 300 names of people declared dead, and as a result, their pension payments stopped, including this man. Good afternoon, Mr. Cletus. So your name is Mr. Efuka Cletus Laffin.
Yeah.
And that's your name here. So your name here is on this list, sir, that says that you are dead. That's the list.
I'm not dead, madam.
I can see that you're alive. So this is your national ID card.
Yes, madam.
And this is your name on this list of people that are supposedly dead. Here's your ID confirming you are who you say you are. Mr. Cletus stopped getting his pension in June last year.
They have not paid me anything.
So how have you been surviving?
But I'm managing with my dad, my small farm. My children, they were in school now. I have stopped them because I have no money.
In order to get his pension reinstated, Mr. Cletus has to prove to the Auditor General's department that he is alive. This means a trip to the capital city, Calabar, a journey this impoverished man has done 5 times.
It's up to 6 hours. Because if you go in the morning, you will reach there when it is 4 o'clock. We go there at time, we used to sleep there up to 2 weeks before we come back. When you come, you go again.
The problem of ghost pensioners is a national problem. Adding of fictitious names to the payroll is one of the ways that money is stolen from government funds and can lead to a shortfall in money to pay pensioners. In 2019, 400 billion naira was owed to pensioners. Jerry Uwa is a finance and business journalist familiar with the problem of pension fraud.
What happens is that somebody will add names of non-existent pensioners. That one goes to him. The people at the top, it's not something at the grassroots. The people at the top, they will pay those ghost pensioners immediately, and the money goes into their pockets. It's not something that a clerk can do, because it will be discovered. It's right up there.
Last November, pensioners, tired and frustrated by delays to vet them and reinstate their pensions, protested outside the pension office of the Auditor General, Mrs. Franca Enoch, in Calabar.
Registered our grievances. Yes. The whole world is aware of what is happening today.
Yes. Retired nurse Epeyong Ewa was involved in the protest and is still angry at how the pensioners were treated.
The attitude, no respect given to them, no honor given to them. They are being treated as beggars on the street for their own civil rights.
Following this investigation, journalist Obaji Akpet's mother, Margaret Akpet, began receiving her pension. Efuka Cletus still has not been paid and has no idea when or if he ever will. We put the findings of this Africa Eye investigation to Mrs. Angela Etta and Mrs. Franca Enoch and asked for their comments. They have not responded. Margaret Akpet, a former nurse, sweeps her compound in a village outside Calabar, Cross River State, in the southeast of Nigeria. When she retired last August after working for more than 20 years, she should have started receiving her pension, but she didn't.
Life is no money, no nothing, and I cannot do anything. I cannot take care of my family. Even my own my aged mother is there. I cannot take care of her. I cannot take her to the hospital. So I am just like that, stranded.
Her son, Obaji Akpet, a local journalist who is helping her follow it up, told us they were both asked for money if they wanted her pension to be paid out.
Safe journey.
Stay well. Amen.
Stay well.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Mommy.
Africa Eye asked him to wear a hidden camera for his next meeting with Angela Etta, the official at the Calabar Pension Office. During the meeting, Angela Etta implied he should make an extra payment on top of the 21,000 naira, about $55, Obaji claims to have already paid her.
Then they got this place shrine. You know, say when you go shrine, you must drop something.
Obaji does what he's expected to do and hands over some money.
Okay, let me see what I have here. 4, 5. Okay. For the shrine.
All right. Thank you very much. You've done well.
But even then, the pension payments don't begin. And having to pay someone to get the pension you're legally entitled to isn't the only problem facing retired people in Nigeria. I'm in Okele, which is a community in Yala, where last October, this list was published with over 300 names of people declared dead, and as a result, their pension payments stopped, including this man.
Good afternoon, Mr. Cletus. So your name is Mr. Efuka Cletus Laffin.
Yeah.
And that's your name here. So your name here is on this list, sir, that says that you are dead. That's the list.
I'm not dead, madam.
I can see that you're alive.
Yeah.
Well, listening to Splash 105.5 FM, we just wanted you to hear a bit of the documentary that was put together by the BBC Africa Eye. It had Yemisi Adegoke on it, and she was speaking with us earlier. Unfortunately, she had to leave the conversation because she has another interview. But I like to think I still have Obaji Akpet with us on the conversation. Are you there? Obaji, can you hear me? Okay.
What am I?
Great. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, it would seem like the network is pretty poor. Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah. Okay, beautiful. So
Okay.
I'm here.
Great. So we just gave our listeners an opportunity to hear this, and very heartbreaking stories of some of those pensioners who have had to leave in penury, because their monies had been withheld. And, some of the things that was captured in that documentary as well, that your reporter highlighted, was the kind of treatment that these pensioners receive from officials of this pension board. And it really emphasizes the problem when people say we are our own problems. It doesn't appear that there's any empathy paid to these people who have spent decades of their life serving their state and who are just asking for what is rightfully theirs.
Yeah, that's true. You've seen it. Documentaries are real life stories. The experience making this film alone was a fly on the wall. So whatever we put out to you there are, things that are real things that are happening. Real people, being. Really putting this film out. We've had a lot of comments where people have to say, "Oh, this sector is less talked about, right?" As important as it is, our aged people in an African society where emphasis is laid on also giving respect to our elders, right? And then that's the government violating that. So, you've seen it. The documentary tells it all, and whoever feels okay, we, like the BBC would always do. We went for rights of response. We contacted all the people, all the parties who have made the system that poor, right? And none of them, for instance, we flew more than 3 times to Calabar to speak with the AG. Still, us would never talk to us, So that's that. You see that. So none of these persons fingered in this documentary ever came out to speak with us, despite a series of letters we wrote to them.
But has there been any successes recorded as a result of this documentary being put together? Have you seen any changes in the cases of some of these pensioners whose stories you covered?
Well, I like we say, journalism doesn't boast about anything, right? What we do is to do our work. Like we said, we started this documentary. We invested 5 whole months in this documentary. We contacted authorities across Nigeria. We're traveling to Abuja, Enugu, all over. We're making researches even as far as the Kwara. What's it called? Sorry, this state always gets out of my mind. This state's in the north, because we wanted the whole range of it, right? Crossover State, like we said, is just an example. But trust me, so authorities were aware at some point that BBC who were doing undercover. We contacted EFCC, and all of that. All authorities we needed to, to speak with, to have permission, to access certain places, and all of that. But you and I know miraculously, recently the federal government passed a law. The federal government had passed a law to the pensioners. Before now, these pensioners earn barely
We seem to have be having major problems with the connections.
Okay, can you hear me now?
It's really breaking, but I want to wrap up and ask you, how can people get this documentary? For those who would want to take time and watch the entire thing, where can they access it?
Okay. And then on local television, if I can confirm that TVC is going to show that, NTA is going to show that, but at the moment, digital version where everyone who is digital,
yes,
BBC Africa Eye on YouTube, BBC Africa on YouTube, BBC Africa. That's the most recent film there being put there. But I want to wrap up by saying, the traction, the hits has been so wide. Like for me, it was almost supposed to be a simple story, right? Like we did Sex for Grade, right? It was quite a huge investigation. Sweet Codeine was quite a huge investigation. But as simple as this story we just did about the retirement health, traction I hit on is telling us the traction we had is more than even what
you anticipated.
Some investigation going to have in a month.
Okay. All right. Obaje Akpet.
To have in a month, we had it in one day.
We really have to wrap this up now. The network is not making it any pleasurable. So thank you so much for speaking with us this morning and for the good work that you did as part of the team that put this documentary together. We hope that more and more pensioners will get redress, because of these stories that you're told, and more state governments would be held to task and would do what is necessary. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
thanks for having I and MEC.
All right.
We always, anyone can always reach us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. You can find the documentary digitally, BBC Africa, on YouTube. Just so you know, Splash FM will also be broadcasting the documentary on all our social media platforms, from Facebook to Instagram and Twitter. So you should follow us so that you can see for yourself this interesting. It would strike a chord with you, especially if you have someone who's in this particular shoe as well and who's been begging or praying for their pensions to be paid. It's quite a captivating story, if I might add.